Our newscast tonight, a winter storm wreaks havoc throughout Korea. The city of Gangneung on the nation's east coast is buried under more than a meter of snow, trapping people, destroying property, and making it impossible to navigate the roads. Despite repeated threats from Pyongyang, annual drills between South Korea and U.S. forces will go on as planned later this month. The question is, can the same be said for the recently agreed upon reunions for families separated by the Korean War? And in sports, home team Russia wins the figure skating's team event. Norway leads the medal standings, and Team Korea is still waiting to flex its muscles in the events it normally have medals in. We have the latest from Sochi. Stay with us for these stories and more.
It is 4 a.m. in Washington, 1 p.m. in Sochi, and 6 on a Monday evening here in Seoul. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Moon Kwon-young.
And I'm Daniel Chen. Thank you for joining us.
Now, this just in, Donald Gregg, former U.S. ambassador to South Korea, has just arrived in Pyongyang. Now, according to various foreign news outlets, including the Associated Press Television News, which has an office there, Gregg is there leading a group of non-governmental organization. Now, we'll have more on that story as it develops. Meanwhile, South Korea has announced the dates for its upcoming military drills with the United States. But will they be threatened by the fact that these dates coincide with the two Koreas' planned resumption of reunions for families separated by the Korean War?
The South Korean government has made its stance clear that the annual joint exercises and the inter-Korean humanitarian event are two very separate matters. Our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee has this report.
South Korea and the United States will begin their annual joint military drills in the last week of February, a plan that could jeopardize an earlier inter-Korean agreement to resume long-suspended reunions for families separated by the Korean War.
The ROK U.S. Combined Forces Command will hold the Key Resolve exercises, an annual defense training drill, from February 24th to March 6th. We also plan to hold the Foal Eagle exercises, which also take place every year, from February 24th to April 18th.
The dates coincide with the upcoming family reunions, scheduled for February 20th to the 25th at North Korea's Mount Kumgang Resort. The Defense Ministry said Pyongyang was informed of the dates on Sunday, but has not yet reacted to the plans. North Korea has, however, previously threatened to scrap the reunions should the South go ahead with the military exercises.
We're clearly stating that dialogue and invasive war games can never coexist, nor can reconciliation and conflict.
South Korea's Unification Ministry reiterated Monday the drills involving tens of thousands of troops are defensive in nature and should not disrupt plans for family reunions.
We have repeatedly explained that the Key Resolve exercises are annual defense training drills that will be conducted separately from the family reunion event. The South Korean government thinks the reunions must take place as planned, no matter what.
Millions of Koreans were separated from their families during the Korean War more than 6 decades ago, and some 70,000 South Koreans, most of whom are now in their 80s, are on a waiting list to see their loved ones one last time. Amid the uncertainty, South Korea has been preparing for the reunion event since last week. The Unification Ministry said that although Mount Kumgang saw over 1 meter of snow over the weekend, snowplows sent by South Korea have already removed most of the snow that's accumulated at the prospective reunion site. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea appears as though it's ready to conduct its fourth nuclear test, although no imminent signs of a test have been detected. South Korea's Defense Minister Kim Kwon-jin told lawmakers on this Monday that preparations for a test of North Korea's main underground nuclear site in Punggye-ri appear to be complete. The site was used for the regime's third nuclear test last year. Now, Kim also noted that the North is in the early stages of preparing for a long-range missile launch at its northwest test site in Dongchang-ri. The minister said the South Korean military is keeping a close watch on the movements, saying that history has shown there is a connection between the North long-range missile tests and its nuclear tests. Meanwhile, reunification with North Korea has been a hot topic in recent weeks here in South Korea, with President Park Geun-hye even touting its eventual benefits. On Monday, it was the National Assembly's turn to debate the issue. Arirang News National Assembly correspondent Kim Hyun-ji reports.
On Monday, lawmakers questioned members of President Park Geun-hye's cabinet about the government's reunification policy. Just 1 month after the president said a unified Korea would be like hitting the jackpot. Ruling party lawmakers expressed support for the president's efforts, including her vision to create a peace park in the demilitarized zone.
I propose setting up a joint committee to establish a world peace park in the DMZ, made up of the two Koreas and the United Nations. This way, the project will engender cooperation from the international community.
While welcoming this idea and others, including making reunions of separated families more regular, Unification Minister Ryu Il-jae said inter-Korean relations must first improve. Some lawmakers expressed concern that the president's recent rhetoric suggests that Seoul supports a reunification scenario in which the South would absorb the North following an abrupt collapse. But Prime Minister Chung Eun-won said the Park administration does not support reunification by absorption, but rather one that is gradual and based on improved inter-Korean relations. At the hearing, the Democratic Party expressed opposition to the ruling party's North Korea human rights bill, arguing it supports civic groups that routinely send anti-North Korea leaflets.
If the bill is approved, North Korea human rights groups will get funding from the South Korean government. This raises fears that anti-North Korea groups will abuse the money taken from the state coffers.
To further thaw inter-Korean relations, opposition lawmakers demanded the government lift economic sanctions against Pyongyang that were put in place after the North's sinking of the South Korean warship Cheonan in 2010. However, the government said it would be premature to consider lifting the sanctions, known as the May 24th measures. On Tuesday, the National Assembly will resume the interpellation session with a focus on the economy. The nation's biggest personal data leak last month and the government's follow-on measures are expected to dominate the discussions. Kim Hyun-ji, Arirang News.
Christopher Hill, the former U.S. ambassador to South Korea, was back in the country at the National Assembly today, speaking about peace on the Korean Peninsula and the prospects for resumption of the six-party talks. Our Kim Young-gil has more.
Christopher Hill said the road to peace on the Korean Peninsula will be a difficult one, but that stronger relations among Korea, China, and Japan could be the key to achieving the goal.
I think we could improve the North Korean attitude if we have better coordination and cooperation involving China and Japan. So my hope is that we can do that and that we can have a closer understanding of how to proceed in a six-party context.
Speaking in an address to the National Assembly on Monday, the former U.S. ambassador to South Korea, who also led the U.S. delegation to the six-party talks on denuclearizing North Korea, also spoke about the prospects for a resumption of the talks. He said that in the event the talks resume, the five parties of South Korea, the U.S., Japan, China, and Russia need to agree that Pyongyang not be allowed to have or develop nuclear weapons.
The North Korean commitment was to abandon all of its nuclear programs, and for this reason, that has to be the starting point, not the ending point of any subsequent negotiations.
Hill also took aims at hardliners in the U.S., who he said seemed to be more interested in criticizing negotiations with North Korea than preventing the North from having nuclear weapons. He said they are actually giving Pyongyang the hope that if they just stick to their guns, they will eventually be allowed to become a nuclear state in Northeast Asia. Mr. Hill said the most important part of any roadmap to peace and reunification for the two Koreas is that they do a lot more talking together. He also said the six-party talks are the best way to kickstart inter-Korean cooperation, describing them as a stepping stone towards reunification. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with heroes and experts to help you understand the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best with Moon Gun-young and Daniel Che on Early Edition at 6.
Now shifting gears to the economy, Korea's import prices rose by 2 Now, President Park Geun-hye wants public companies to alter the way they do business, repeating an earlier call for reforms. But this time, she's also issued a warning to anyone who tries to derail the reform plans. Park Ji-won reports.
During a meeting of the president's senior secretaries Monday morning, President Park criticized state-owned companies for their lax management and called for reform. She pointed out that a number of public enterprises that are deeply in debt still offer their employees excessive benefits, even covering the tuition at foreign universities for some of their employees' children. She pledged to hold responsible anyone who tries to sabotage the reforms and said she is particularly concerned about recent opposition by unionists at some of the firms. She said the public companies need to regain the public trust by being proactive with their reform plans.
국민들은 어려움에 허리띠를 졸라매는데 공공부문에서 방만 경영을 유지하려고 저항한다면 국민들에게 그 실태를 철저히 밝혀야 합니다. 국민들에게 실상을 정확하게 알리고 공공기관 스스로 변화의 길을 갈 수 있도록 해야 할 것입니다.
President Park also criticized the lack of progress around her ambitious initiative dubbed Government 3.0, which aims to allow for wider public access to government information to ensure that state affairs are more transparent. She said the information is not being shared systematically and ordered fundamental improvements to her plan. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
National tax revenue collected by the government last year fell short of expectations by 4% as the domestic economy struggled to recover from the global economic downturn. The Ministry of Strategy and Finance said that amounts to a tax shortfall of nearly $8 billion in 2013, with total taxes collected standing at roughly $189 billion. The ministry attributed the drop in tax collection last year to the sluggish economy and stagnant property market.
Nowhere but up, it seems we're seeing signs that Korea's IT industry is off to a good start this year. The nation's exports in the information and communication sector rose last month on the back of rising demand for local semiconductors and mobile phones. Our Hwang Ji-hye has the details.
Korea's exports of IT products, which include semiconductors and mobile phones, inched up 0.2% last month from the same period a year earlier to $13.1 billion. The Trade Ministry said Monday that the rise in outbound shipments of IT products came in spite of a weak Japanese yen and financial instability in emerging economies. The Trade Ministry attributed the rise to growing shipments to ASEAN member countries and the European Union. Shipments of mobile phones in particular surged over 14% last month from the previous year to $2.1 billion. A more than 20% spike in exports of smartphones led the rise. Exports of semiconductors also rose over 14% to more than $4.5 billion. Shipments of display panels, however, fell more than 15% to $2.2 billion as exports to Korea's largest importer, China, plunged. Korea's imports of IT products, meanwhile, dropped 2.7% to $6.8 billion, spurring a 3.4% gain in the nation's trade surplus. The Trade Ministry expects the upward trend in IT exports to continue due to the economic recovery in Korea's major exporting markets like the United States and the European Union, along with the growing demand of smart gadgets in emerging economies. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
In the tech realm, when it comes to patents related to the fourth-generation long-term evolution network, Korea's two biggest electronics firms share the throne. Tech IPM, a U.S.-based research and consulting company, said Monday that LG Electronics made up about 23% of all essential patents applied for as of late last month in the U.S. and Europe. Samsung Electronics came in at second at 18%, followed by Qualcomm and Motorola, while Apple trailed far behind at 2%.
Well, engineers and medics from the Korean military are rebuilding schools and hospitals and offering free medical care to area residents in the Philippines as part of the ongoing relief efforts in the aftermath of Typhoon Haiyan. Arirang News Kim Hyun-bin reports from Tacloban.
This is a cemetery for victims of Typhoon Haiyan in Leyte province, though some burials are not so formal and are marked by roadside plots. Large sections of the province were devastated last November when it was struck by what was one of the strongest tropical storms on record, which killed thousands and displaced millions more. For the survivors, there isn't much left, and international aid has poured in. Korea is one of the many countries that have sent relief workers to help the area rebuild. SGNL military engineers and medics chose the name Arirang, which means sun and hope in Tagalog, as a reminder of his mission to help the locals reach for a bright future. For now, the Arirang unit is focused on rebuilding schools and hospitals. They also provide free meals to roughly 500 children, as they have done each day since their arrival in late December.
This is one of the hospitals that was rebuilt by the Arirang unit. What's even more amazing is that they had it up and running in less than a month. Another step in helping the people here get back on their feet.
Apart from the engineers focused on reconstruction, there are dozens of doctors and nurses here, giving free medical care to area residents.
I just came here for check-up for my baby. For everything is free. Here in Telegrapo, no money, no medication for our illness.
Every member of the Arirang unit is a volunteer who is trying to make a difference in the world.
The Arirang unit's slogan is to become one and complete our mission for the good of humanity. With that in mind, we will give more of our love to the locals before our mission is complete.
The unit is providing free medical equipment and healthcare services to people in the 3 major districts in Leyte province that were hit the hardest by the typhoon. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News, Tacloban.
The 2014 Winter Olympic Games have barely begun in Sochi, but we've already seen some new rising stars emerge and even some new Olympic sports.
And for more on Sochi 2014, we turn to our Olympics correspondent Song Ji-sun, who's standing by at our sports center. So, Ji-sun, the first weekend of competition is over. Give us the rundown.
Good evening, guys. Sochi 2014 is not only the most expensive Winter Games in history, but as you mentioned, it's also introduced us to some new Olympic sports. Let us begin with a wrap-up of Day 3 of the Games on Sunday with those new sporting actions. Starting on the ice, Russia won the first gold medal in team figure skating, beating Team Canada and Team USA. On the final day of team competition on Sunday, both the ladies and men's first place went to Team Russia, with 15-year-old skater Yulia Lipnitskaya stealing the show thanks to her flexibility that enables her to execute a near-perfect layback and ice spin. Earning a total of 214 points after free skating on Sunday with a clean performance, the young Russian has risen as a medal favorite with the support of the hometown crowd alongside Korea's Olympic reigning champion Kim Hyun-ah. Now over at the Rosa Couture Extreme Park in the mountains, Team USA grabbed both golds in the men's and women's snowboard slopestyle event inaugural event. After teammate Sage Kotzenberg became the first gold medalist at Sochi 2014 on Saturday, American Jamie Anderson captured women's gold on Sunday with 95 1/4 points. The 23-year-old was the X Games slopestyle champion from 2012 to 2013 and the first runner-up for the 2014. Finland's Annie Ruokajärvi brings home the silver, and Britain's Jenny Jones became our nation's first ever medalist on the snow, winning the bronze. Now moving on to some bigger jumps, who soared the farthest in the most stable posture? In ski jumping, it's not just about jumping the longest distance, it's also about maintaining a good form. Now Poland's Kamil Stok accomplished the feat, flying 105.5 and 103.5 meters respectively, for a total of 278 points for the ski jumping title on the normal hill. And Slovenia's Peter Previc was second at 12 points behind, with Norway's Anders Barder claiming the bronze. Team Korea 3 athletes failed to earn a way into the finals. Now, while it's Sochi's turn in the Olympic spotlight right now, it's not too early to begin thinking about the Pyeongchang Winter Games that will be held here in Korea's Alpine City 4 years from now. And if you're in Sochi for the Olympics, do pay a visit to Pyeongchang House at the Olympic Park to get a preview of what it will be like in 2018. To mark the 4-year countdown, Pyeongchang's organizing committee held Pyeongchang Day on Sunday, with IOC President Thomas Bach present at the scene, dancing to Psy's Gangnam Style. We'll also be on site at Pyeongchang House next week, so stay tuned. Let's now take a closer look at the medal standings as of this Monday evening. Norway is at the top of the list with 7 medals overall, after sweeping 2 more golds on Sunday in the women's skiathlon and the men's biathlon. The Netherlands are in second with 4 medals, 3 of which came in men's 5,000 meter speed skating. Team USA stands in 3rd place with 2 golds they won in both the men's and women's snowboard slopestyle finals over the weekend. Host nation Russia and Canada are tied for 4th place with a gold, 2 silvers, and a bronze respectively. And as for Team Korea, we're still waiting on the country's first medalist from Sochi. And moving on to tonight's events, yes, Korea currently sits at 0 in the medal count, but speed skater Mo Tae-bum may have something to say about that as he returns to defend his title at the Adler Arena Skating Center in the 500 meter. He is the current number 1 in the World Cup rankings for the 500 meters and finished first in last year's single distance championships held at the same venue. So stay tuned for more actions tonight and for the full results and schedules with Sochi.ru, and check back with me for results at our newscast at 8 p.m.
Now, Korea's eastern Gangwon-do province is digging itself out today after being hit with a record 122 centimeters of snow over the past 5 days.
The extreme weather has shut down schools, businesses, and led to a delay in bus and train services. Local authorities estimate that the heavy snowfall has led to damages of more than $3 million throughout the province.
And for more on the weather conditions across the nation, let's go over to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle, other than the Gangwon-do province, here in Seoul, we had a fairly nice weather today.
That's right, Kanya. A heavy snow alert has been issued in the east coastal region, and about 20 more centimeters of snow are forecast to fall through tomorrow.
Well, let us hope everyone stays safe. So how about in Sochi? What's the weather going to be like there tomorrow?
Well, there are chances of showers in the morning, unfortunately, then partly cloudy in the afternoon with a little bit of breeze. More updates for Korea now. We have fairly warm weather forecast tomorrow for most parts of the country. However, it's going to be partly cloudy as well. Now, going over to the readings, the temperatures are going up. So we'll start off the morning at -6 degrees and reach 4 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Daegu and Busan will peak to 4 and 6 degrees respectively. Now down on Jeju Island, we can expect light rain. Daejeon at 4, while Dokdo hits -2 and Mangeun tops out at -10. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and back to you guys.
Thank you for that, Michelle. And that brings us to the end of our newscast. Thank you for watching. This has been Daniel Tran.
And I'm Moon Young. Thank you as always for being here with us. Have a wonderful rest of the evening, and we'll see you right back here same time tomorrow. Good night.